Welcome to Steps Forward with Ricki, a weekly walking podcast designed to help you take steps forward in your life and your day. The first time that I ever experienced loneliness, like true, deep loneliness, I think for my better part of my life, I felt lonely after my mom died. But when I was 22 years old, I lived in the wilderness. I'm not even joking, for 50 days. It was through this school or this organization called Outward Bound. They basically took students out, people out that were, sometimes they were a little bit in trouble. Some of them had been to jail, and they were between the ages of 15 and 25, and they needed a little kick in the ass. It's like Survivor trip, whatever. What's that thing? Survivor show? Survivor Island? I don't fucking know the show. I don't watch that stuff. But anyways, so I signed up for this trip, and long story short, I ended up being on an all-boys trip. My name was Ricki. They put me on an all-guys trip, and this was a hardcore trip. They put me on the trip with people who got sent, and it was just crazy. And on the 30th day of the trip, we had this thing called the solo. And so what the idea was that we all had to be alone with by ourselves for 3 nights and 4 days. And they gave us 100 feet, and you were a mile away from everybody. You were separated. And you had water because you had a little river next to you, and so you could fill your water bottle up, get water. So obviously, don't die, but you have nothing else. You have the option of taking food. You can take trail mix, or you can take nothing, or that's it. And then you can take a journal. You can't take a camera. You can't take anything with you. You're alone. And the idea is they want you to be alone, but not lonely for 3 days. I don't know about you, but have you ever been alone? Think about the last time you didn't have your phone, you didn't have music, you didn't have TV, you didn't have a person, you didn't have any distractions, no food. I remember literally they laughed. They're like, all right, we'll see you in 3 days. And I'm like, okay, great. And I literally didn't stop crying, I think, for 15 hours. I was terrified. First of all, I'd never been alone in the wilderness. B, I'd never been alone. Truly, utterly, deeply alone, nothing to do, nothing to watch, nothing to listen to, literally nothing to eat. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it through. And I woke up the next morning and I unzipped my sleeping bag a little bit. I peeked my head out because I knew what time it was. We learned to tell the time with our fists and all these different things, super hardcore. And I peeked my head out the sleeping bag and I was like, okay, I can do this. It's I can do this. I can be alone today. And I did yoga and I did all these different things, but really I spent the majority of the day crying. It was terrifying. And then the second day came and I put some different things in place and different routines and some habits, make the day go by a little better. And I would do yoga, then I would write, then I would sleep, then I would make getting my water an activity. And I would try to fulfill the days or fill the days the best way that I could. I would do push-ups and I would dance and whatever. And, in the process of all that, I was still obviously scared and crying. And it was this mix of taking small steps forward, but still feeling the pain of being alone and being anxious and being bored and the day is too long. And so it was this unique combination. And it was really scary. And then the next day, I did the same thing, and the same thing happened. I cried, and I did my routine, and I got through it, and I felt things that I had not felt in a long time, and it was the first time I ever really connected to my mom. I was 22 years old, but I had never been alone with my grief. I'd never been alone with my pain. I'd never been alone. And when you're really alone, you don't have the opinions of other people. You don't have the distractions of the world, of the food, of the drinks, of the everything, and you're just there. And it's hard to just not listen or hear what you're thinking or what you're feeling. You have to feel it. And so it was an interesting experience, and that was really when I learned what the depths of loneliness was. And it's not like I left those 3 days and was like, oh, I'm never going to be alone again. I'm healed. It just kind of opened the door to what loneliness was and what I needed to work on. And so I'm not where I used to be, absolutely not. And I'm definitely not even where I used to be a couple of years ago. But we all have different parts of us that are lonely or that feel lonely within us or around us. And the idea is that it might not 100% go away right away or for a little bit, but we can take these little steps and we can put ourselves in situations that might be a little scary or jump into these fears or give ourselves an opportunity to be alone with ourselves. And even when it's scary and even when you feel like you can't unzip the sleeping bag and you're just like the day is long and you try everything you can to distract yourself, you have to remember that whatever it is you're feeling is always temporary. And you've been here before and you've gotten through it. And loneliness won't kill you. Really what kills you is staying where you're at and not allowing yourself to be scared and not allowing yourself to jump into something and not allowing yourself to put one foot in front of the other and realize that what's ahead is a lot better than what's behind. And you really can always take steps forward. So I just wanted to share that story with you. And there's so many different wilderness stories I can share with you. They're literally insane. I honestly paid to live in dirt. So, there's that. But these are just the stories of my life. These things that I've learned about loneliness and about liking who you are and starting a business and steps forward and all these different things in my life. Like, you learn these things through experience. And if I can share my experiences with you, some of them are a little out there, but you'll know that obviously you're not alone and we are probably way more alike than you think. So cheers to that.